This is a 61 megapixel photographic beast. It has perhaps one of the best photography sensors on the market at the moment. But it also, like many other mirrorless cameras, is capable of taking stunning video. So the question is, why do so many photographers balk at the idea of shooting video? Today, we're going to take a look at making that transition from photography to video. Let's get into it. So why do so many photographers not like the idea of shooting video? Some absolutely despise it and say it's completely against photography. Others are held back by not understanding the technology or the techniques. There's a mental barrier to actually shooting video, and yet in most modern cameras it's just the flip of a switch and a slight change in mental attitude. It's not about the gear, we have the gear. It's about switching your mind into a moving subject rather than a stationary one. Now, as photographers, our mindset is always to capture a moment in time. We're trying to capture a still frame, a moment that won't ever happen again. In video, we are trying to capture kind of the same thing, but we're trying to capture emotion through motion rather than freezing it. Now, obviously in photography, a still image can have motion in it, but it will still be a still image. In video, we are trying to make sure that there is some motion in our frame. If I was to take a video clip of a particular still, let's have a look at the cathedral behind me, and if I was taking the close-up of the cathedral, absolutely no motion at all, that would be one very long 10-second photo rather than a proper cinematic video clip. Now, one of the barriers to people getting into video, photographers getting into video, is a misunderstanding of how simple it really is to transfer. Like I said, we have this stills mindset, but in video, there's only two things you really need to think of. If your subject's not moving, then move the camera. If your subject is moving, then generally keep the camera still, or of course you can pan with it. The basic concept is you need some sort of motion in your frame. Now, as I mentioned, the cathedral behind here, if I was to take a close-up shot of it, it would look like a static photograph shot on a 10-second video clip. But if I was to introduce some motion into that, perhaps pan up, pan down, tilt from the left, tilt from the right, or even come out a little bit wider and incorporate the river behind me, then we would start to show motion. Conversely, the weir behind me has water rushing over it. Now, it's not as spectacular as it is in winter when you get the full force of the river weir coming through this little section. We're in the middle of spring now and it's been particularly dry, so there's not an awful lot of water going over there. But that said, you still get that motion. So you could have a locked off camera frame and have that motion in it. You can also use techniques like parallax. Find a foreground and a background and just move the camera gently sideways or in and out. Now, rather than zooming, particularly with modern lenses, it can be very, very jerky. You can actually move the camera in and the camera out. Gimbals are ideal for that, but with modern stabilized cameras, you can also do that just handheld. Move the camera in, move the camera out, slide it left, slide it right, and just get a feeling of parallax and movement into your video. A lot of the compositional rules in video are very, very similar to photography. We use the rules of thirds, we use leading lines, we use negative space. They all apply to video, but you just need to make sure you have that motion element. For example, a leading line, you might actually use that leading line to tilt up to a static subject. For example, again, the weir here, I can tilt the camera up from that moving weir to the static cathedral, and I've led my viewer through the scene to the subject. And one thing to remember about video is you need to have a bit of bite at the beginning and the end of each clip. So you need to take a minimum of around 10 seconds. Now, of course, you can expand that. With modern memory cards, we can shoot as much as we want and really get some absolutely high quality video. And there's no reason why you shouldn't shoot 20, 30, 40-second clips if you know you're going to get the right shot within that clip. But perhaps the biggest barrier to a lot of people is the technical aspects of video. there's the concept of frame rates and 180-degree rules. And they may be holding people back. Some photographers, particularly older photographers such as myself, may not want to take that leap into those technical aspects. But to be honest, they're not very difficult. Shutter speed, for example, is shutter speed. The simple fact is that it works in exactly the same way. The shutter opens, it allows the light to fall to the sensor, it closes. However, we need to balance that with frame rates. Now, frame rates are the number of frames per second that are recorded. Typically in cinema, a film camera or a digital film camera will record 24 frames per second. Our cameras, we may be able to do 24, we may be able to do 25, we may be able to do 30. These are all standard frame rates. We can also step up to 60, 120 or even 240 frames per second. These are the realms of slow motion where you can slow the cameras down and get ultra slow motion video. But the key rule here is when you're shooting video, if you have a high shutter speed, you're going to get a staccato looking image. As you can see here on the weir, as I mentioned, the river's not running particularly fast at the moment. However, if I use a high shutter speed on the weir, you can see that the water has a staccato feeling to it. What I want to do is bring my shutter speed down to double that of the frame rate. So, for example, today I'm shooting 25 frames per second. I want to bring my shutter speed down to 1/50 of a second. If I'm shooting a frame rate of 60 frames per second, 1/120th of a second. And so on. By slowing that shutter speed down, you introduce motion blur, something we're very, very familiar with as photographers, into our frame. And that motion blur is what gives our video that silky smooth cinematic look, for the want of a better word, a very overused word. But the fact is, the cinematic look relies on a slow shutter speed and a motion blur in each individual frame of that video clip. Now, we don't always have to do that. We can raise our shutter speeds and have a staccato looking look. If you're a fan of Top Gear, a lot of their car race sequences are shot with very high shutter speeds and you get this really staccato looking action feel to the video. The same was true of Saving Private Ryan, Steven Spielberg's masterpiece. The first 20 minutes of that film on the beaches was shot with a high shutter speed to give a real jerky feel to the image and make you feel quite uncomfortable, and that's what it's designed for. Now, of course, if I'm down here today and it's quite a bright day and it's a really let's say it's a really sunny day and I want to get a shutter speed of 1/50th of a second. Let's say I want to have a nice wide aperture. I'm shooting some nice shallow depth of field video. I want a nice wide aperture. It's a bright day. How am I going to get my video down to 1/50th of a second? Well, that's where another tool comes in. The neutral density or the variable neutral density filters. Now, I have these ones here. They've been given to me by K&F Concept. They are their Nano X series. And in this little package, I have a variable ND that goes from 2 to 6 stops, which is also a polarizer. And I also have a black mist filter, which we'll talk about in a moment. This is the variable ND and polarizer. Now, the back is actually the polarizer, so you can switch it around and turn it off, but you can also rotate the front element, which is the ND, the variable ND filter. And the beauty of these things, and I've talked about these before, is that they are magnetic. These literally clip to the front of my camera and I can pull them on, pull them off at will. And that's such a fantastic system. Now, as you've seen in the demonstration here, if I reduce my shutter speed, I can actually introduce that motion blur. If I take the filter off, I actually get that staccato look to the water again. Now, the advantage of variable neutral densities is in changing light. You don't have to constantly swap out an ND8 for an ND16. You can literally turn your ND and cut that light down instantly. The advantage of having the polarizer on it as well is scenes like this. Water is highly reflective. Foliage is highly reflective. You can reduce that reflectiveness and increase the contrast of your video and your stills. These work brilliantly in stills as well. You can use the polarizer to reduce that contrast and punch your images and video out much, much more. It's also great for glass, particularly in cars or buildings, getting rid of that sort of light reflecting back. And of course, there's the famous blue sky scenario, whereas if you're 90 degrees to the sun and you use a polarizer filter, you'll get a big, deep blue sky. Now, you do have to be careful using them, particularly on wider lenses, because you can get vignetting and you can also get a cross mark in the middle. So the advantage of a black mist filter is, and I've talked about this before, digital images are very sterile digital looking. They look perfect. If you saw my video about the older Fuji X-Trans sensor compared to the Sony Alpha 7 R5 that I did a few weeks ago, you'll understand I really like that, and I hate saying it, film look that the older sensors give. The modern Sonys that we use today, the modern Nikons, they have a harsh digital look. And by using a black mist filter, it diffuses the image very slightly, particularly in the highlights, giving it a softening effect. And it can be used for video or it can be used for stills, the same as the polarizer and the variable ND. As I mentioned, K&F Concept gave me these to play around with, and I have been playing around with them this morning down here on the banks of the Weir. You've seen some of the footage and the stills during this video. If you're interested in buying these, I do have an affiliate link in the description below. I'll get a small commission on that, and any commissions that I get will help go towards producing more videos and hopefully bringing more information to you about my experiences in photography. As photographers, we often find the technical aspects of video really tricky, but they're really not. As you've just seen, the very, very basics are getting motion into your frame and getting your frame rate and shutter speed matching so that you get cinematic footage. For that, you can use pretty much any modern camera and an ND filter or a variable ND filter, such as the K&F Concept ones that I've shown you. Now, of course, it's much, much more complex than that. You're not going to become a director of photography just because you can get the 180-degree rule. But even going a little bit deeper, if you've shot documentary style photography before, then you're telling a story. And that's what videos should do. They should tell a story. All the clips that you shoot, all those video segments that you should shoot, should work together. They should cut together. You should have a wide shot, an establishing shot, a close shot, a medium shot. Build a picture of what's going on around you. That's why zoom lenses are so useful when you're shooting video. Primes are wonderful for stills photography, but when you want to tell a story through video, you really need to use a zoom. Today I've been using the 24-105mm Sony. It's absolutely ideal for telling a little story down here, as you've seen with some of the images. You can add narration to that. You can stand in front of the camera, as I am doing here. You can do so many different things. Video is nothing to be afraid of. Yes, there are technical aspects that are different, but there is so much of it that is similar to what we do as photographers. Now, if you want to take your video a little bit further and understand much more about the technical aspects of shooting video as a stills photographer, I do have a Udemy course and I will link it in the description below. It's called Video for Stills Photographers, and it's extremely good value, and it will take you from zero to hero in terms of understanding the technical aspects of shooting video as a stills photographer. That's in the description below. If you've got any comments about videography as a stills photographer, I'm quite happy to answer them in the comments below. Now, next week I'm off on a very special trip. It's a trip that I've wanted to do a long time. My wife Tanya and I are going up to the Highlands of Scotland. We're going to do a road trip around Scotland, photography based. We're not going to do the NC 500, the 500-mile route round the coast of Scotland, purely because that puts a time limit on yourself. So we're going to stay up in Fort William and drive to various locations and shoot photography, shoot video. I'm going to put the drone up in various locations. And of course, I might do 1 or 2 YouTube videos to let you know what I'm doing up in Scotland. Trip I've really been looking forward to for a long, long time. Hope the weather holds. It's Scotland, of course, so you can never tell. But quite honestly, in Scotland, you don't want clear blue sky. Rainy days, moody overcast, partially rainy days are absolutely ideal for photography up there. So stay tuned to the channel, look out for that. If you've enjoyed this video, a like would be fantastic, a subscription would be even better, and I really look forward to seeing you in the next one.